Stewart, obviously we're talking this morning about the budget battle and how it's going to be joined, but, John Boehner saying, yeah, we're going to fight. It sounds to me like a lot of our governors have already joined the fight. This is Christi yesterday at the American Enterprise Institute.
I was booed lustily. I made my way up to the stage. They booed some more. I got to the microphone. They booed some more. And so I said, come on, you can do better than that. And they did.
And that's exactly what's going on in Wisconsin right now, where they're equating Scott Walker, the governor who's trying to cut back on their pensions, with anti-Mubarak rhetoric. Is that how bad it's gotten?
There is a pitched battle at the state level, and they're pointing their fingers and saying, hey, this pitched battle has to come at the federal level, and it had better come soon, because the situation's getting out of hand. I understand that today in Madison, Wisconsin, the schools will be closed again.
That's right.
The teacher sick-out continues, but there will be a debate starting at 11 Eastern Time today on the Scott Walker bill to drastically rein in the power of municipal unions. So it's a pitched battle in Wisconsin, and I think that has implications not just for other states, but at the federal level as well. This thing's really heating up now.
Well, good morning, Stewart. It's great to talk to you again. Major Garrett here, a voice somewhat familiar to you, I would hope.
Oh, Major, what a pleasure it is to talk directly to you again, like old times.
Like old times, my friend. Listen, the federal angle to me is interesting because it's been made fundamentally clear to states in difficult budget problems, and there are many. 46 are in deficit this fiscal year, banking about $140 billion of deficits on their books, that they can't come to Washington for any type of bailout. Eric Cantor, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell have said, we're not going to elevate moral hazard to the state level and state budget, so don't come crawling to Washington for any further assistance. Is that the kind of thing that is precipitating the confrontations we're seeing at the state level, and where do you think they're going to head ultimately?
Yes, if you can't go to Washington for a bailout, and you're right, Major, that's exactly what the administration and certainly the House Republicans are saying, don't come to us for more money. That means you've got to solve your own problem. That means you've got to confront your deficit in your own backyard. That's what's happening, and this refusal or this reluctance to talk bailout is the reason why it is coming to a crunch right now in so many states. But, that crunch is going to arrive at the federal level very quickly. I'm sure you've seen the article in the Washington Post this morning that says the interest on the national debt will quadruple in the next 10 years.
I've got it in front of me.
In the Obama budget. $2,500 per year for every man, woman, and child in America in 10 years. That's what's in the Obama budget.
Well, is it fair to say, listening to this debate and seeing what's happening at the state level, at least guys like Walker and Christi and Governor Scott of Florida, who says, I don't need high-speed rail, I'm not going to pay for it, are serious about the budget, and these are kind of the shock troops now in this battle?
I think you can definitely say that, Fred. Yes, that is precisely right. You can look upon America as a wonderful petri dish with 50 different petri dishes experimenting on how to get out of this awful mess. Mm-hmm. Most of the states thus far have not gone the tax hike route, with the exception of Illinois and Connecticut. Most of the other states have either gone, we're cutting spending across the board, like Texas and like Wisconsin, or they've got a mix. Some tax hikes, but mostly spending cuts, like California and New York State, for example. So it's a vast experiment. The rubber is hitting the road, and some of these governors are really turning up the heat and saying, look what we are doing. We are paying the price. Now you, at the federal level, you've got to do the same thing. Governor Christi yesterday was basically telling President Obama, get out front on Social Security and Medicare, because those are the big issues, and you've got to lead on them.
Stewart, let's look at Wisconsin very carefully, because I know you've been paying a good deal of attention to it. There are some within the public employee union universe who say, look, we are being singled out, we are being unnecessarily scapegoated, and our employees were told you have collective bargaining rights. That's an assumption. It's a fairness issue. It's an equity issue. It's not fair to deprive them of collective bargaining rights when they've always been guaranteed them. That's an essential part of the compact. How legitimate do you think that argument is, and would it ever be even being debated if the fiscal situation of Wisconsin wasn't as dire as it is?
The latter part of your question is the important part. We would not be in this situation if we weren't in such a dire financial mess. Wisconsin faces a $3.5 billion budget deficit in a relatively small state. That's crisis levels. I think it is legitimate for the unions to say, you are taking away our basic fundamental rights of collective bargaining. But is that necessarily entirely true? Governor Scott Walker's bill, being debated today and probably voted on today, would take away the bargaining rights of the union where pensions and benefits are concerned, but not about wages. They still have collective bargaining rights in the wage arena. So
it goes to legacy costs.
I'm sorry?
It goes to legacy costs, in other words.
Legacy costs, it does indeed. Precisely.
I would also have to say, and we've had a couple of legal experts weigh in on this, Stewart, that rather than try and decide through courts whether or not states can declare bankruptcy, Governor Walker's solution is painful but necessary and immediate, and I got to believe more governors are interested in going his route than going to court.
If you pay out these legacy costs, as Major was saying there, if you pay them out, then you do not pay for children's medical services, education services, hiring new police officers and firefighters. So what do you want to do? You want to cut these legacy costs and grasp the thorny bush, or do you just want to go on and cut vital services to the poor and the sick and the elderly? It's a straightforward choice.
We got the Thorny Bush Coalition right here, but we have to say goodbye to its
Stewart,
leader,
always a pleasure.
Stewart Varney.
My pleasure.